Hi again.
2025 is already off to an amazing start as we get ready for our first trip of the year. Highigan's going international, heading to Spain for our first ever Spannabis, linking up with Homegrow TV and a bunch of our other friends. That means we have to leave the garden for over a week. And as we start to travel more and venture out on our cannabis journey, that means leaving our plants unattended at home for days or even weeks. Over the years, we've tried a lot of different things and made our own things to try and see if we can keep the plants watered, happy, and healthy while we're gone, and that it's solid and reliable and we can trust it while we're gone on trips. So in this video, we're gonna give you a run through of all the different pots and systems or things we've built and tried over the years for watering and what we think is the best. And stay tuned, there's a little something in here that I just made that's gonna help us get through this trip even better. All the different pots, all the different watering systems.
We've used quite a few different kinds of pots and auto watering systems, and we definitely wanted to share those with you guys and what we liked about them and what we didn't like about them.
4 years of watering systems, different kinds of pots, automated stuff, DIY that we put together, stuff that we purchased. We're gonna be diving into it all, tell you our feedback, the pros and cons that we think of each, and then what we're going with right now, what seems to work the best.
Yeah.
Let's dive into it.
So obviously the first pot anybody really thinks of when they think of plants is just the regular old plastic pots.
Plastic pots.
Yeah, and we've used those. I think a lot of people out there have obviously used those on more than just cannabis, and they're great. They're a solid pot for any occasion, really. They retain moisture really well, but they don't really have a whole lot of airflow for that root development.
Yeah, that's a great point. I think plastic pots can be really great, but they do retain a lot more moisture because they definitely don't breathe the same as like a fabric pot. If you're doing something like autos, it could be a little more problematic with, you could have over watering because it just holds on to that moisture so much. And if you're not like familiar with either the weight method of like picking up your pot and seeing how heavy it is compared to when you start and you haven't watered yet to see like how much water's in there. That's like always a good thing to kind of gauge your wetness. Like when you first start and you fill up your pot, just give that a feel and kind of like trying to remember how much that weighs, and then make sure you're not overwatering, because plastic I think is probably the easiest to fall victim to overwatering, just because you're not going to get that same kind of drying that you would from a fabric pot.
I agree. And not everybody has those fancy gadgets to tell them how much moisture content is in their pots. For cannabis, as you mentioned before, fabric pots is actually a really great thing that we've tried and we've had success with.
Fabric pots are kind of, I feel like, the go-to for everybody starting out. They're easy to use, they're easy to store. You get much better aeration in there with the fabric, so it just lets the roots and everything breathe a little bit more. I feel like we've always used pretty much fabric pots, I think.
Yeah.
For the most part.
The downside to fabric pots, though, is the fact that you would have to, versus say a regular traditional pot, you would have to water more because there is that airflow there. It's going to dry out a lot quicker.
Yeah, anything with more surface area exposed to the air, it's just going to cause evaporation faster. And sometimes that might be a problem. Increased humidity in your tent you'd probably see versus a plastic pot, and lots of other things. Like sometimes fabric pots will have the training loops on them, like the Basement Grow Show ones that we ran back in the day. They're pretty versatile. Like I feel like a lot of people use them. They're great for if you're bottom watering. What are your thoughts on butt chugging?
I do the butt chug, actually.
The fabric allows it to absorb moisture right through the fabric. Probably the most widely used. One of the cons is they are a little bit dirtier, especially at the end. They're harder to clean, You gotta, if you want to get them real clean, you gotta scrub them and spray them. It's kind of up to you. You know, may not look the prettiest in the garden, especially if you've used them for quite a few runs. But I mean, fabric pots are an OG
they're a
go-to.
solid choice. Another pot we've tried in the past is air pots.
Air pots. So we have ran air pots quite a few times, and I liked them. I liked them a lot, but as we were saying with like the fabric pots and the more airy aeration to them, these air pots seem to dry out almost even faster, I would say. Just because of their design, they seem to dry out faster. And the ones we had definitely had raised bottoms too. So if you were trying to do like a bottom wick situation, you would definitely have to make sure you're filling your water up high enough so it's touching the bottom of the medium to be able to absorb.
So think of the air pots as an upgraded plastic pot with just like holes around it.
Yeah.
The great thing about air pots that I did love though is that you could size them to whatever size that you really wanted, which was really nice.
Yeah, definitely. We trimmed ours down to make like a 3-gallon pot from a 5. So there's some flexibility there. And also then when you're done at the end, you can undo the little screws and just unwrap the whole thing,
So
and it
easy.
pops out easily. You just take the bottom out and then spray the plastic down, get ready for your next run, snap it back together.
Yeah.
So that was kind of a cool feature of them. And one thing I know you didn't like as much is when you would water with those is sometimes the water would pee out the little side
It would
holes.
pour right out the sides.
How do you like that air pot, babe?
I don't love it.
No?
If I'm being honest, no, I don't really love it.
Why?
I don't like when I water it, it like spews out the sides sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't mind the air pots. I didn't love them. But you know, if you're somebody that loves to water your plant, then
Right.
air pots are definitely great for you.
Yeah, they were good. I used the automatic watering system with them as well. And that seemed to work really well if you can keep up with the watering. And I was doing it with Floraflex, and they worked pretty great for that. I didn't enjoy them, but we ended up moving on to other kind of things that,
Yeah.
didn't have the peeing out the side and not as quick of drying
They were short-lived
bags.
here on the channel.
Yeah, they were short-lived, but if you guys remember back in the days, we definitely had a few runs with the AirPods. So out of everything we've listed so far, guys, comment down below. What are you using? What are you thinking about using?
Yeah. If you guys experience any of this kind of stuff in your grow with these kind of pots, just, comment down below if we didn't mention anything that you guys thought would be important.
And if you're looking for something dank to put in all these pots and grow systems, make sure to check out Seedsman for a wide selection of unique cultivars available worldwide. Use code Highigan and save yourself 10%. After that was the mesh bags. Remember somebody gave us some at CannaFest?
We got them
So-
good karma bags at CannaFest, so we're pretty excited to try those, guys.
They are all mesh, and I have yet to try any mesh bags.
I was actually really interested to try these because of the airflow factor.
So same concept with a mesh bag. Instead of like a fabric, it's actually almost like a plasticky mesh that's tightly woven, but definitely allows that airflow and allows the water wicking. So the mesh bags were pretty cool. We did use those for a few runs, and same kind of concept as the air pots. They will definitely dry out faster.
Yeah, significantly less moisture.
Yeah, than a regular standard pot, just because of how it allows it to breathe all the way around the pot and the bottom. So they did seem pretty good, washable, reusable, a little less dirty.
Very easy to reuse.
Yeah, but same kind of concept. Like, you're gonna have to be more proactive with your watering and monitoring, just because those pots will dry out faster, especially if the humidity's low and it's us here in
Yeah.
wintertime. It's just like whoosh.
So again, if you're one to really like to water your plants, it's not a bad choice because it does allow for that airflow, but you're definitely gonna be watering a whole lot more.
Yeah. And then after that, what was it? The GroBuckets.
The GroBucket.
Remember the GroBuckets?
Yeah, I really loved the GroBuckets. It was actually like my first introduction to some like self-watering systems.
Yeah.
And I was all about it. I would still use the GroBuckets today.
Yeah. GroBuckets were great. Basically, GroBucket is an insert that you can put into a 5-gallon pot, and then it creates an air chamber down there, a hose that goes down to fill that reservoir. It allows you to fill the bottom of the 5-gallon bucket, and then the plant will absorb water through there. So it's pretty cool. It has like an air gap and then an overflow hole, so that way you make sure that you're not flooding out the bottom of your plant. So there's always going to be an air gap. Yep, and then it takes what it needs through wicking in there. So those did work really good. It even has a little indicator to tell you where the water's at inside there. And overall, we were running autos only through them. They worked pretty good. You could get some good water. The reservoir really wasn't that big though.
Reservoir wasn't big, and another con on that is there was like zero airflow. I really loved the self-watering portion and how I didn't have to worry about my plant drying out. But then now you have to worry about airflow with something like this.
Right. There's definitely an air gap at the bottom of the root zone, so water's never completely flooding or touching the bottom of your plant. It wicks up from the sides. But yeah, that sealed plastic bucket all the way around the edge, there is no airflow around or through the soil.
Which is very important for the roots.
Yeah.
So that would definitely be a con for that. But again, the factor that it allowed me to just keep the moisture level in my plant was enough for me to want to continue with it.
Yeah. They did work good, and we used them quite a few times. I think we even used them since we moved here.
Yeah.
Maybe in the very beginning.
Well, hello.
Woo! Chill Out OG is beasting out, fam.
They didn't have the longevity of watering. We would have to fill them more frequently, and it's just something we got out of. They worked great for a while for our needs in the beginning, but we eventually moved on to other systems.
Yeah. It was just eye-opening as far as self-watering systems for me.
After that, we started to dive a little bit more. I did into the Floraflex and the auto watering using water pumps and timers. I've tried a few different kinds of watering rings with those, from the Bucket Company hydration drip rings to drippers to some 3D printed ones from GroTech. And overall, that system did work pretty well. And we've tried various different models of that recirculation system with the Bucket Company buckets. And that one worked pretty good, whereas basically they're sitting in a reservoir, and the Bucket Company buckets, if you didn't know, have like legs or PVC spots on the bottom, so you can raise them up. Bucket Company bucket sitting on legs. So it drains back into the, what is the reservoir bucket? There's 2 pumps in there, one to mix and then one to feed. So we just run 100% cocoa in here, fill the tub up with Floraflex water for the week, and then this will just automatically water. The runoff goes back in, and then all we do is maintain the pH and the EC to make sure that everything's on. So we would raise them up to where they're level with the top of the bucket where we had our water, and then when it waters, all the runoff would go back in. And we ran a circulation setup like that for a while, and it actually worked really good on quite a few strains that we did of photos. We had the lot lizard.
I loved that recirculating system, but refilling that system was such a pain.
Yeah, it could be a pain because you had the lid on there and everything, but it wasn't too bad. Like basically we would just, when it get down to the point where the pump wasn't picking up the water to water the plants, we would just shop back out what's left, refill the reservoir to our marked line, and then mix in our nutrients and back to the races. So really it was a pretty good system, and there's no ever risk of overflow with the recirculation system that we set up. And I think that's one of the biggest things, no risk of overflow, because everything's self-contained. There's no way for water to get out of control. Yeah, no, I was in love with that system. The plant grew beautifully. No issues, except for, like I said, it was just kind of a pain to, if the reservoir would have been outside of the tent, it would have been primo. Right, or maybe some more ports or something to get the shop back in there. Yeah, but it just seems like a lot of work, you know? Yeah, it worked, but it wasn't ideal. It's something we just kind of pieced together and built ourselves, and we got through quite a few runs. The water would last a very long time. Yeah. And even with the recirculation, the runoff of the Floraflex, it made the nutrients last longer. Twice as long, because all we would have to do is basically watch the EC and the pH of that water in there, and then when the runoff would go back in, we would use the pulse hub to monitor how the EC and pH was. And sometimes we just had to add water. Yeah, and if all we had to do was add water to bring the EC down and then re-pH it, we would just keep going and going and going with the same water recirculating, and it worked well. Those plants turned out awesome. Yeah, they really did. Yeah, so that was a pretty great setup, pretty easy to use. So maybe if you're looking for some kind of an automated system, like some kind of an ebb and flow or a flood tray or a recirculation thing that you can set up pretty easily. I know Strange Show just did a great video on like setting up an ebb and flow table, like a flood tray in your grow tent. That's a good one. Definitely check that one out. But it worked well for us in our needs, and you know, I think we just kind of moved away from it because, like you said, it was a little bit harder sometimes to swap the water out, depending on how big the plants were. Especially once we had that system in with the Scrogna on top, then it got difficult to get down there.
And when the plants get big, it's hard to get in there sometimes. You know,
it also
either
limited you on being able to move your plants around because they were kind of trapped with the size of the bucket.
It is very limiting in a lot of ways doing it that way.
Yeah,
so not my favorite, but again, the watering, the self-watering made it worth it for me.
Yeah, so I think gradually, kind of as we progress through all these different styles of buckets and systems and things that we've used, like we've always been trying to inch more to less having to maintain watering ourselves.
Yes.
Is one of our goals, or at least the goal that we found ourselves running into with life.
Yeah, no, I mean, if you guys want to look back at some of the old grows, you can tell that I was severely underwatering my plants, and I'm sure I didn't have a water source very quick nearby, but that was only part of my problem.
You're going buckets up and down the stairs all the time.
And it was, so anything that would have made my life easier back then, I would have taken, just like the GroBuckets or even the bucket company. I would have jumped on it. Just because of just the easiness of the self-watering, and also just knowing that your plants are taken care of.
Yeah, it really kind of, you got to think maybe more about what your situation is. Can you be around your grow all the time?
Yeah.
Can you check on your plants daily? Do you have to travel for work and you might be gone for a week?
Yeah.
Or maybe more. Like if you want to keep growing and you want to make sure your plants are good, this is something that we've ran into. These are different things that we've tried to see how we can kind of offset that need to be there and make sure that we're watering, or can we achieve something sustainable that's reliable to keep watering for us. And that's part of the reason we've constantly been searching for a better system for our grow. In the recent years, we've been traveling more, going to events, going to things like Pimp My Grow, or when we went to the Emerald Triangle to tour and meet the legends for over 2 weeks, we definitely needed a system that could handle it and that we could trust and be reliable. In just a few days, we're going to be headed to Spain for our first ever Spannabis. We're super excited. We're going to be linking up with Homegrow TV, Jorge Cervantes, Mr. Q, Johnny Casali from Huckleberry Hill Farms that we got to meet when we were in the Emerald Triangle. And for the first time ever, we're going to get to meet Norma G in person and a ton of other dope growmies. Who knows what we'll get into? Make sure you guys follow along on Instagram at I'm Highigan. Not only will this be our first ever Spannabis, but we're also going to be checking out the World Autoflower Cup, and we're going to be judging the Organic Cup in Barcelona. If you want to check out more on Spannabis, check out Homegrow TV's new video he just dropped a few days ago. Just a great overview from his trip last year, so we can expect even more fun this year.
The plant needs water in order to survive. The roots need
water.
And I mean, if you're underwatering your plants in any way, it's going to affect your plant.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, bottom line.
Especially autos, you're going to...
Or overwatering. There's both ends of the spectrum there.
Yep, so. Definitely. Over, under, around.
Underneath.
Top water, butt chug.
Also, in our search for automated watering systems, we found the acinfinity watering bases.
Yeah, I remember when they released them, we were super pumped as a way to, again, alleviate some pressure of having to maintain or make sure we're not over under watering and give us a little bit more flexibility in the days in between checking that. So when those came out, they were real great, simple, easy to use fabric wick strings that basically go down into like a reservoir tray below it.
Yeah.
And it has a little gauge on there that would tell you kind of how much water's in the reservoir. They definitely work they definitely kept things going. I would say the only drawback with those was the size of the amount of water you could put in there.
I kind of agree with you on that, but I do love that the base is raised, so it's not ever sitting in that water. If you ever were to have to top water, you never have to worry about it sitting in that water, and then it will just take up what it needs from the wicking system to the pot.
Yeah.
And these are designed to be used with fabric pots, so you would then wick it from the wicking system, and then it would wick up the fabric into the pot.
It is a wicking system, and there is no risk of overwatering with them because it's gonna just draw what it needs.
Exactly.
You can, if you're filling, like you said, filling from the top and your reservoir is already full and you end up getting runoff, you can have the potential of overflowing with them, which I don't recall. Well, maybe once or twice.
Yeah. Do agree with you on the size of the reservoir for the base itself. There just isn't enough water.
And actually, Nodoze, shout out to buddy in the community, told us that you can take those tops from the AC bases and set those on a 5-gallon bucket. Crisscross will make you jump.
Yeah, you like my little...
What do they call that? Fucking cross stitch?
And like, I don't know. I was like, whatever, fucking gets it. So...
That was the Nodoze tip.
So... It'll suck it up, right?
The only thing is it doesn't fit quite perfectly on there.
Yeah, it's a little wobbly. Don't love it, but I think it'll be fine with the weight of the
plant.
We'll
You better hope.
Let's find out.
Come back and she tipped over on the ground.
Well,
bum, bum, bum. I don't know if you have enough strings there, babe. It's looking like a fucking puppet master.
You don't think?
Fucking puppet master.
I wanted to make sure.
We know who's pulling all the strings.
It's a little dicey.
But it works. 5 gallons of water. Thanks, Nodoze. She's living on the edge a little bit, but it'll work, right? Don't worry about it. Continuing on our journey of a good self-watering system that was easy to use, we ended up trying Autopots.
Oh my gosh. Hands down, the best system I think we've ever tried. My personal opinion, but I'm gonna say I love it. Probably use this system forever.
For real, honestly, out of all the watering kind of situations we've tried, it has been hands down the easiest, especially with the organics in the soil. Like, I mean, you just literally fill it up with water and just let it go. It's been working phenomenal, both of this run. You're right, Norman G. I'm a believer in the Autopots, and we're definitely gonna be starting more up just because of how easy they are. I think there's a lot of great reasons to that. We started off with the tray to grow, which is a great option. It's perfect for a 4x4 tent because it fits perfectly inside of it. But it's essentially a large tray with a fabric liner bottom that does the wicking action. And then you can just set your pots in it. Like right now in the tent behind Heaven, we have 3-gallon pots with photos in there, and it's perfect.
It's beautiful. It's self-sustaining. It's gravity fed. There's no timers involved. I am absolutely in love with this thing. I cannot say enough good things about it.
Yeah.
My plants seem to be healthier because, as you guys know, the roots are the foundation for the plants, and as if it has enough moisture and airflow, that plant's gonna just do amazing. And let me tell you, the Autopots have just done tremendous things for my grow.
Yeah, it really takes all the factor of watering too much, too little out of it because the plant is just drinking whatever it needs, sucking it up from the tray. And then once the tray gets low, then all gravity fed system, water fills back up and then it stops at the right level due to the aqua valve inside there. Basically, it knows when the water is too low, it opens up the valve, it flows down through gravity through your reservoir, and then once it gets high enough, it stops.
Yeah.
And it just keeps going on its own.
So you don't need pumps, you don't need electricity. It's completely automated all on its own, and it's the coolest thing.
Yeah.
I'm so obsessed with it.
Because definitely in some of the auto watering setups that I had done before using Floraflex, there was some issues with pump failures, return pump failures. So when the runoff that would be collected, it was supposed to be pumped back into the reservoir. Then that bucket company drain thing, I don't know if it comes with 2 pumps for a reason, but definitely have had pumps fail or it not return, and then we come back to a flooded tent after a trip once, and just too many variables for it to be solid, and too many failure points with also the requirement of electricity, because if you lose power, then nothing is going to water. Whereas Autopots, no matter what,
your plant's gonna get it.
It's gonna give the water.
As long as your reservoir
as much water as your plant wants to drink, basically.
Yeah. Just keep your reservoir full and your plant will be watered to what it needs.
Yeah, definitely. If you're looking for like just an automated, no power, no electricity system, The tray to grow is a great one because it gives you the flexibility to put the pots on where you want in the tent, multiple size different pots. And as long as they're fabric or something that can wick through, you're good to go.
Yeah. And as I said before, you can underwater and overwater your plants by hand watering or even any other kind of automated system. This is not going to allow that to happen.
Yeah, very true. You can't really overwater them with it. You're right, because it's just the wicking.
Yeah.
And it works they work fabulous. We're on probably our third grow with the tray to grow at this point. And it's just been working phenomenal.
Yeah.
12-gallon reservoir will last
I'm getting another one.
over a week, over a week easily. And then what we're doing, we're there with the dry amendments and running organically. It's pretty easy with the Autopots. All you have to do is when you know you're going to be doing your top dress coming up, you can turn off the valve at the bottom so the plants drink the water out. It won't refill. And then you let them just dry back a little bit so they're getting thirsty.
But you're going to be watering from the top.
Yeah.
So.
Then what do you do at that point?
When I top dress, I also top water in order for those nutrients to flow down.
Yeah.
And so I don't want to overwater my plants. So what I will do is I'll allow all those to flow through. Maybe even a couple days do that, just because I want all those nutrients to get to my plants. And then when that all dries down on the bottom, that's when I'll turn it back on, knowing that my water, knowing that my plant needs the
Right,
water.
because you don't want the bottom watering on while you're top watering, basically.
Right, or else you'll overflow the system.
Exactly, yeah. You're going to oversaturate and your pot's going to be leaking, and you could potentially overflow the tray if there's already a lot of moisture in your pot.
Right.
So it's really advised to turn them off before, let them dry a little bit.
Yeah.
Mix in your nutrients, top water.
Or there's a lot of people that just put their nutrients right in their reservoir, which is totally fine
Yeah.
too with this system.
That is another option you can run. We've been running and testing Floraflex and Athena in these systems, and it works great. No issues with clogging or anything like that. Autopots have been a great one. We've also tried the 4-pot system.
Yeah.
And that's expandable. They actually have a huge different lineup of many other things that we haven't even tried yet, but they're all work under the same premise of gravity fed, aqua valve, easy to use. Like you
Easy to
don't really
use.
have to, there's not a lot of maintenance or watching other than making sure your reservoir is full.
Yep.
And making sure you're giving them the right nutrients for the stage you're at. Like all the plants in the middle tent there are all running on the 4-pot system. We got seed harvest coming up, guys. Battle the breeders and the stuff that's growing right now. You're going to get the full in-depth look at the 4-pot and the multi-pot system, which those are basically individual plastic trays. The neat thing is then each individual plant basically has its own little base that it's drinking from. So each plant is just drinking as
What
much
it
as
needs.
it wants, and it
Yeah.
will refill just that plant's base when that plant is ready. So I think that's one of the neat things about the 4-pot system. But it's worked amazing. The only maybe downside I think is to the ones that we have that are square is if you want to spin your plant around
Yeah.
because it's square, you have to lift it up out of the base a little, spin it and put it down. Remember that slightly dicey
It's a little dicey.
acinfinity thing we rigged up with a 5-gallon bucket so we could keep that plant watered while we were gone at Spannabis? Well, during that same live, I had a brainstorm.
So,
Dang, you know what you could do? What if we fuck that whole pot thing and everything? What we can do is we can take that pot out. I can 3D print and make a thing that will lay on top of it, and then you'll be able to weave the fabric into it and then just set it on top of the base, and you won't have to do any watering. It'll be off the thing. Do you fucking love that? Red eyes? I've always wanted a 3D printer, and I finally got one, and I'm absolutely obsessed. I've never used CAD before in my life, so I had to go through and learn how to start using CAD, but I've already been making some things, and this base was super fun to make. turn out perfectly, transforming the Autopot's 4-pot system into one that can accept any fabric pot on top and wick from the base below. So it's gonna help us huge when we're in Spain at Spannabis, keeping our Fast Buds Auto going so we don't have to worry about watering and any kind of janky setup. This is gonna work perfectly, so I'm super pumped to see how it is when we get back. I think it's gonna work flawlessly. I'm super pumped and stoked about the 3D printer and all the things that I can come up with. I've already made a ton of things. This is just the tip of the iceberg, guys. And if you happen to have the Autopot 4-pot system and a 3D printer, I put the download to this file below so you guys can print your own, try them out, and let me know how it works.
Huh?
They do make ones that are made actually for 5-gallon fabric pots. It's a base that you set the fabric pot right in. And it drinks through there, so I think that's pretty cool.
Yes.
Maybe we'll have to try
It's
one of those.
a lot like the 4-pot system, which again is expandable, but it just fits in fabric pots instead, which I think is super, super cool.
And it gives you that flexibility, which is super nice sometimes in your grow, to be able to spin that plant around, especially if you have huge ones or a bunch in the tent and maybe you can't get back to the backside to trim it up. Spin that pot around a little bit easier. And another thing with the 4-pot system is there is the air dome that you can put in there. That's a dome that goes in the bottom of the pot that you hook to an air pump, and it pumps air directly into the root zone for explosive growth. We've been using it on the 4-pot system in the back of the tent right now. You guys will definitely see it in upcoming videos. That's another thing with the Autopots that I think is pretty unique, having those air domes, being able to supply oxygen directly to the root zone.
Yeah, I agree with you, because if you notice, they are in plastic pots, which we mentioned before can kind of hurt the root zone if it doesn't have enough aeration. Those allow it to have that aeration, and it really does help.
Air bubbling right in the root zone with the water, just going right into the plant. So it seems to be working amazing. We'll definitely dive into more grows you guys will see coming up and why we're so obsessed with them. But overall, Autopots as a whole, we're sold. I can't see us wanting to use any other system.
No, we have completely switched all of our systems over to Autopots just because of the simplicity of it. It's not only simple, but our plants are thriving.
Yeah.
So I'm beyond happy about Autopots, and I will continue to use them.
Gone are the days of overwatering, underwatering, forgetting to water completely.
Yeah.
They just work, and they work so amazingly well. Let us know if you guys have tried Autopots and what you guys think, but they have changed the game for us in just the simplicity and the bulletproofness of the system.
Also, comment down below, guys, if you've tried any other self-watering systems that you might like that we haven't mentioned today.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff out there, and there's a lot of different ways. And I feel like some things might work better if you're just getting started. Like maybe you don't need the whole watering system. Like honestly, just getting started, fabric pots is probably your way to go. Get used to watering, understanding that, how much they drink and how quickly they'll dry out. And that all can factor into how big your pots are, how many gallons of medium you're running, and things like that. There's a lot of different factors, but if you're looking to help automate your system and just make it easier, I feel like Autopots is the way.
Yeah, I will say it to the rooftops. I think I will be using Autopots forever.
You're obsessed.
I'm completely obsessed. I'm completely obsessed with the Tray to Grow. I'm gonna tell you right now.
Great.
I've only used this for one run, and I will probably forever use it. I'm not kidding. I love this setup.
It works really dope.
It works so well. Not only is it great for just what we're growing, but you could grow anything in these because of the fact that the plants take what they need, any kind of plant. If you're looking for a system that's going to be automated, you don't have to use any timers, you don't have to use any electricity. I'm telling you, Autopots is your one-stop shop.
Yeah, and pretty much the only maintenance on them is after you're done with a run or periodically through the run. If you notice there's sediment or things in there, you probably want to check the aqua valves, because the only failure point that I can really think of is if some kind of debris or somehow one of those things get clogged so the valve doesn't close, it can overflow.
Right.
Because then it wouldn't stop when it gets to the proper level, and the water would just keep gravitating out until your reservoir is empty. We've never experienced that. We have heard of people having it happen. But with proper maintenance and care, there's absolutely no way. I've noticed no issues with Athena and Floraflex, which seem to run pretty cleanly in the system in terms of there being any kind of issue with buildup or potential leaks.
Yeah.
Everything's seemed pretty solid because they just work so good, especially if you struggle with watering or traveling or anything where you can't constantly be there to monitor and you're looking for something reliable. I don't really think there's any other option.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. Again, Autopots for the win.
Autopots for the win. But that's about it, guys. If you have any great watering tips, pots, or things that you guys use and absolutely love, drop a comment below. Let us know what you guys are using, what you think is bomb, or what you might be switching to.
Yeah. Guys, thank you for hitting that like button and stay high again.
Keep those plants watered, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Audie.
Hey, I'm April O'Neil, and these are our first 4 in the 5x5. Why didn't the sun go to college?
Because it's already has 1,000,000 degrees.
You're gonna love this though. This is a joint from last year when we went bike riding.
Shut the fuck up.
It's I'm smoked. You have to smoke it with me.
I'm probably gonna die.
Babe's loving it.
Oh my god, it's so bad.
Hey,
Hello.
what's up, Neil? Matt, Joe is the Hog Daddy.
Hog Daddy! What's up, fam?
What's going on, brother?
H-O-G Daddy, what up, buddy?
Man, Hog Daddy.
Hanging and banging, Bubba.
Hog Daddy's the fucking shit, man. I want to smoke a joint with Hog Daddy.
Do you know what you're doing? Do you need a diagram?
What's that? We got this.
Who are we talking to?
What up? My name's Caleb.
Caleb, good evening.
What's going on?
Fucking Caleb.
Are you so baked right now? How baked are you on a scale of baked to baked?
Fucking eat bugging, bake.
He's bugging.
Caleb, are you okay? How many
Where can
fingers
we
am I
help
holding up,
you?
Caleb?
I called the number on the screen and now I'm tripping and don't know where I'm at.
Oh, God. Caleb, son, help.